It's many people's dreams to become a professional gamer and take Fortnite to the highest level, but let's face it, 99% of them fail and don't go pro. In this video, I'm going to be highlighting the differences that separate pros from average players, and I'll be showing an in-depth procedure that you can take to become a pro player. Before I get into anything, first I want to talk about what a tier 1 pro is. Lots of people have different definitions of tiers of pros, but this guide is looking to take you from any skill level to where you can consistently make enough money from this game to have it be your full-time profession. That doesn't just mean making earnings in solos every season, or even making some duo cash cup finals. That means making grand finals every season and doing well enough to rake in some of that big prize money. The first thing I have to talk about is how long it'll take to go pro. I hate to break it to you, but becoming a professional player isn't something that happens overnight. To make it in this game, there are two main factors: consistency and time efficiency. Now, first, what I mean by consistency is that it's not going to take a week to go pro, or even a month, or even a season. Going pro is a process that you need to work diligently and consistently on if you ever want to see progress. In this video, I'll lay out a procedure where over the course of 2 to 3 seasons, you can gradually work and eventually achieve your goal of becoming a professional player. As for time efficiency, this concept means that, for example, if someone got on and played 12 hours of box fights every day, they would do worse than someone who only played 4 hours, but that got on, VOD reviewed 1 hour, aim trained 1 hour, played solo ranked for 1 hour, and practiced their mechanics for 1 hour. This time efficiency means you're optimizing the time spent on the game and not wasting any time doing anything unnecessary. With those two steps in mind, we can get into the first step of the roadmap, but before that, one thing that holds tons of people back from taking the next step to going pro is their ping. Exit lag is an insane tool that tons of professionals use to optimize their connection and routing so that they get better ping. I've seen tons of people asking in my comments how my ping got so much better, and it's all because of exit lag. And there's no reason not to at least try it, because there's a free 3-day trial that you can start literally right now without entering any credit card or payment information. All you have to do is download the program to test it for yourself. Lots of people had their ping increase when the servers were changed from NA East and NA West to Dallas, myself included, and without exit lag, I get around 30 ms in creative. But once I turn it on and connect to Dallas servers, my ping drops all the way to 10, which is absolutely insane. The way it works is generally on your normal internet, the route your connection takes to the Fortnite server is extremely unoptimal and adds tons of unnecessary delay. And what exit lag does is completely optimize your route straight to the server so that your ping is the least it can possibly be from your location. It'll be linked in the description below, so try it out and let me know how much your ping decreased. Now, your first step to climbing that ladder to becoming a pro is putting all your focus and effort into solos. Solos is the most important thing to work on for a ton of reasons. First and foremost, you aren't going to place in duos without a good teammate. Solos is where you can prove yourself and improve yourself with no excuses. When you die, it's literally always your fault. There's nothing to scapegoat it on. Solos is by far the easiest game mode to earn in currently, since you only need to win one finals game to get your first $100. What that $100 does is, first off, like I said earlier, it starts building on your reputation so that you can start finding better teammates. But second off, when you make $100 from a video game, oftentimes it can help your parents justify the time you commit to the game when they see some cash made from it. And third off, the money will allow you to invest in yourself. A lot of people think that they can't go pro because their setup isn't good enough, and that tier 1 pros are only tier 1 pros because they have 240 Hz and 240 FPS. But in most cases, pros started making their first earnings on really bad PCs and eventually saved up enough to buy a nicer PC. In my case, I played on a really bad PC for a while until I eventually saved up my first $1,200 earned to buy a new PC. This doesn't just apply to PCs though. You can also buy new equipment like a monitor, mouse, or a keyboard. The goal of buying new equipment like this is for it to be an investment. Instead of thinking that you're spending money and it's gone, think that you're spending money so you can make even more money competing at an even higher level. Focusing on solos is important because being a good solo player will build all the fundamentals you need for other game modes. If you take any 2 good solo pro players and put them together, they'll do better than any 2 mid players with tons of chem. This is because skill is more important than chemistry, so by getting better solo placements, not only will you improve your skill, but you'll also get the opportunity to play with more skilled players. Solos teaches you how to fight, how to play off spawn, how to rotate mid-game, how to choose layers in endgame, and every other fundamental. While sometimes there are some differences between solos and duos, having the foundation built from solos will always allow you to be a good duos player. Now that you're convinced solos is the most important thing to start your journey to becoming a pro, you're probably asking, how do I actually get better at solos? And that's where the consistency and time efficiency I was talking about earlier comes in. The first thing you need to do is build an efficient routine that you do every day when you get on. A good start is 1v1ing someone better than you and asking them what they think you need to work on. From there, I would say first off, nobody is above aim training. Whether it be Kovacs, in-game trainers, or even aim duels, you should be playing at least 30 minutes to an hour of one of those every day to build your mouse control and aim in general. As for improving your mechanics, you need to be critical of yourself. It's 2024, so very few people still have bad mechanics, and many people actually have very good mechanics. So watch yourself and see if you really need to invest any time every day into improving your mechanics. Once you have your practice routine set, it's time for you to be critical and hit the VODs. In the current Victory Cup format, there are only 3 games in finals, so one early death loses you 33% of all your finals games. This is why it's so important to go into every single game and figure out what you did wrong. When it comes to finding your mistakes and correcting them, writing them down on a notepad or in a document is the best way to go. By writing them down, you engage multiple senses. Instead of just thinking about something, you're physically writing it, seeing it on paper, and oftentimes reading it back to yourself. This active engagement with multiple senses helps reinforce the memory, which will make it more likely for you to actually improve these things. Obviously, when you play, there are going to be tons and tons of mistakes at first, so instead of trying to tackle everything at once, writing them down also allows you to see which mistakes you make the most, so you can focus on improving the ones you see that are a pattern in your gameplay. Once you figure out what you need to improve though, how do you actually improve? Well, first off, you need to find the solution. Sometimes the solution is obvious, but other times in more complicated scenarios, it'll be hard to find the solution yourself. In that case, I recommend going to a friend or someone that you know is better than you and presenting the problem to see what their take is and what they think you could have done better. Once you figure out the solution, you should also write it down and have it handy right before the next scrim or solo tourney. Unfortunately, there aren't many solo scrims, so at least have it down next to you when the solo cash grip starts. That way you can keep the solution present in your mind to make sure you don't make the same mistake again. One tool I have to recommend for winning solo games is Destiny Jesus' Solo Masterclass. When I first started really trying to get competitive, I bought the masterclass and literally within 2 weeks, I made my first earnings back in chapter 4. I talked to Destiny Jesus, who's a prolific coach himself, and he showed me how hundreds of people got their first earnings every season after getting the masterclass. It gets updated with tons of new videos every season so you can adapt to the new metas and strategies. And if you want to get it, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can pick it up. Hopefully, if you've been following this guide correctly, by the end of your first season, you have anywhere from around 100 to 500 earned. Once you've achieved this, it's time that you start looking for a duo. Earning $100 in duos is much harder than in solos because you have to qualify top 50 to the duo cash cup finals. The first step to qualifying, however, is finding a good duo. The criteria to finding a good duo is as follows. You must find someone first off with a similar skill level to you. If you find someone worse than you, it'll be hard to place because their skill won't be enough. And if you find someone better than you, it'll be hard to improve and work on your mistakes together. While there are some niche cases where these duos can work, generally it's better to find someone with a similar skill level to you. The next requirement is finding someone that has the same goals and mindset as you. If you find someone that's the same skill as you, but won't grind the same amount of time as you, it's useless. You need someone that wants to put in the time to achieve the same things as you. That way you can both work together and fix your issues and improve to get to the next level. As for improving as a duo, it's similar to what you were doing when you only focused on solos. The main difference is that there are tons of duo scrims and they're super important to play if you want to improve. Every time you find and write down your mistakes, you should play a scrim session where your sole focus is not dying to the same mistakes you wrote down when you were VOD reviewing. Now, every duo cash cup has 10 games and each game lasts up to 26 minutes. By dividing the amount of points you got from each game by the length of the game, you'll be able to find which games you had the highest point per minute ratio. Using this method, pick 3 or 5 of the lowest point ratio games and figure out what went wrong. Those games are the most important to fix because those are the games you wasted the most amount of time in a tournament. If you die off spawn immediately, sure, it's not ideal and you should probably be practicing your off spawns. It's not the biggest deal in the world because you only wasted maybe 2 to 5 minutes depending on queue times. Whereas if you die mid-game or right before endgame, that means you wasted a whole 15 to 20 minutes where you get no points. Speaking of off spawns though, the best way to get better at them is by playing off spawn customs. Find a duo that has a creator code and then you can alternate dropping at your spot and their spot so you can both practice fighting off spawn at that drop. It's also important to continue trying your hardest in solos. Just because you're trying in duos now doesn't mean you should let up any of the pressure in solos because it's still a foundation for a lot of the skills you'll need in duos. Back to myself as an example, at the beginning of chapter 4 when Central came out, I started missing some duo cash cups and FNCS weeks and instead put all my time into solos. After 2 seasons of this, I had around 800 earns from solo victory cups. This is when I decided it was time for me to start playing duos seriously again. So I started playing with Leone Fishy, who had similar stats at the time, and we started scrimming and vodding. And in our first season, we made 2 duo cash cup finals. While this isn't anything special, it's exactly where you want to be so you can focus on the next part of the guide, which is focusing on FNCS. Getting those duo cash cup finals practices in is the only set lobby experience you'll have, which is super important when it comes to the FNCS. Unfortunately for my own comp career, this is around the time when I started focusing on YouTube and comp went to the back burner, so I haven't made a grand finals myself. But the next jump from solos and duo cash cups is to FNCS grand finals. This is the most important part because grands is where the majority of the prize pool is and where the qualification spots for the major lands are at the end of the year. Once you're ready to take FNCS serious, it's important that first off, at the very beginning of the season, you try to formulate a winning game plan for the meta. A game plan is one of the most important parts of a duo. This means a set plan that you try to follow every game that you can put yourself in the best position to win games. While obviously in a battle royale like Fortnite, there are a ton of random factors that can knock you off your set route, it's important to at least attempt to have a plan that you can follow every game. If you grind from the very start of the season, get a plan to get ahead of the meta, and fix your mistakes every tournament, there's a high chance that you will make grands. Once you make grand finals, instead of setting your sights on a LAN qual or a top 5 immediately, it's important to be satisfied with a top 30 or even a top 20. Don't ego contest someone better than you at a way better spot than you in your first grands, or grief some split that's triple comp since you've been landing there all season. In your first grands, you need to garner some respect by landing somewhere you deserve, like an uncontested bad split, and trying to do decent from there like a top 20. Top 20 is 3k each on Central, and it's a good reward for all the effort you've put in throughout the season. Once you started making and placing in grands consistently, that's when you can call yourself a professional player. One important thing that I left out is that through all this time, you need to be practicing becoming a great fighter. I recently asked pro player Veno what he thought the most important thing to be practicing for people that aren't at the pro level, and he said that it's fighting. Fighting is super important because a lot of the randomness factors that are created by Fortnite being a battle royale can be solved by good fighting. Good fighting can get you out of bad positions, good fighting can save your game from ending early, and so much more. If you want to get good at fighting, the best way is by playing 1 hour of solo ranked, clipping/vodding how you die, and then if you write it down and apply it to your next solo rank session, you'll just get better at fighting. And the next way is by playing against players that are way better than you in creative. Getting destroyed over and over again is a good way to figure out what you're doing wrong, and if you're lucky, you can even ask the person whooping you what they think you're doing wrong. So in conclusion, in order to become a professional esports player, you need to be starting by focusing on solos. Once you've built yourself some reputation by placing in solos, then you can start looking for a duo. And once you found an adequate duo and started to make some cash cup finals, you can move on to making an FNCS grand finals. Once you've made grands, don't have an ego and just play to the best of your ability without griefing anyone else. All the while, you should be practicing your aim, mechanics, and fighting every day. If you made it to the end, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel.